Alrighty, kia ora tātou. Welcome everybody. I'd like to ask you to please all be upstanding, and I'd like to welcome Reverend Ben from St Mary's to come forward and lead us in prayer. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you. Let us pray. God of the universe, whose will is the flourishing of all people, the thriving of the land, and the building up of communities, peace, care, and justice, we pray for our whole Timaru district. And as the council gathers today to make decisions and undertake business vital to our community, so we ask that you would grant them wisdom, creativity, and guidance in their decision-making, that all may be done in accord with your will and for the good of the diverse people who call our district home. In your name we pray. Amen.
Kia ora, thanks, Ben. And I'll now ask the team to lead us in the waiata.
E re re ra e aku wai Māori, e maringi atua kia koutou e. E re re ra e aku wai Māori, e maringi atua kia koutou e. Rangi tata ki runga puri ora ki raro te tai o ari atu hiwini e. E re re ra e ai kuwai mi e.
Beautiful. Please be seated. Alrighty, welcome everyone. Welcome to those online. So lots in the agenda today, but the key one is signing off our long-term plan. So I know there's some from CCOs and such that are here, and thank you for being here nice and early, but we will unfortunately have to change the agenda around a little bit, so we will bring forward the LTP items because we've got John with us now. So I'll move now to apologies. Is there any apologies from the team? No, I don't think so. So I also welcome Jan from Geraldine Community Board. Great to have you with us, Jan. Do we have Stephen here? Is Stephen here from Public Forum? Yeah, perfect. Welcome, Stephen. So we'll start with Public Forum, and we'll welcome now, and this was just one that had been missed through the LTP process, so we thought it important that we give Stephen the opportunity to come and speak to us. Welcome. Can someone just help Stephen? Come on up to the front here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's the presentation.
Fantastic. And we've also got a copy of your submission in the documents in front of us. So, Stephen, floor is yours. Got around 10 minutes. We may even have some questions for you as well. Thanks, Stephen.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's privilege to be here, and I saw Wyn Raymond's photo coming in, and his grandson and my daughter were on the most famous dairy farm in the world, Worthy Farm, overnight to listen to Coldplay play, wearing our T-shirts from the district, giving the Timaru district a round of applause at Glastonbury. So there you go. So some of you know me as the record keeper in Geraldine. I'm passionate about music as well as my chemical engineering. So I've come to you today because when you run a shop, customers come in and talk to you. And a lot of our customers come in and talk about electricity, resilience issues, solar heating, and they urged me to come and talk to you about a rethink in our energy plan so that we do produce something that is right for our district. in these very, very challenging times. And of course, music can tell us a lot and it can give us hope. And we will start with, this was number 1 in New Zealand in 1960. Can anyone remember the song? No, Bad Moon Rising. Now, what were the words in Bad Moon Rising? Well, we'll take verse 2. I hear hurricanes are blowing. I know the end is coming soon. I fear rivers overflowing. I hear the voice of rage and ruin. That was 1969. Our hippies were singing to us about our future. So that's a long time ago, when we knew the impact that increasing levels of carbon dioxide was going to have. So I went to university and I studied engineering, and I've worked in New Zealand for the electricity sector, Fonterra and others. And where are we internationally? Internationally at the moment, we believe that reduction targets are slowly being met. Slow is the word, but we are seeing now increasing extreme weather patterns, not just globally, but also in New Zealand. And, we have to, feel very sorry for those people on the East Cape and people north of Auckland. We haven't quite seen it here, but it could come. And our food exports, which is important for this district, are going in the direction of net zero labelling, which means, that will have probably the biggest impact of anything in terms of investment coming forward. And some countries and councils are investing very smartly in their clean energy future in making the most of public funds. The energy world is turning to modern philosophy, believe it or not, because it cannot all be done with engineering. And modern philosophy tells us that everything is connected, and that's true in the energy world as it is in everything else. And the UK in particular have been very, very progressive in the way that they have started to look at the complex energy issues. And they're going in the direction of the SIC-like understanding in the world of energy systems. And that means simply you cannot look at electricity, heat, and transport in isolation anymore. They are all highly integrated and interconnected, if that all makes sense. And the UK is doing some very, very good work in this area, especially some of the councils in the UK. If ever you want to look at progress being made. So I'm going to just talk about some things we could see in an energy plan in the district in the areas of electricity, heat, and transport. And it's all very cyclic these days, and it's a lot more than just engineering and costs. It's about perspectives and relationships. Right, have a bit of a think. What is the cheapest way of providing electricity resilience? How are we going to do it in the future? This is to help us after storms, or when we're isolated, or when we lose our transmission line, for example. We are very, very vulnerable. So how are we going to do it? Are we going to keep running our diesel gensets? Well, you won't get diesel. We might run some biodiesel. We might all have batteries. But we have to think differently about how we provide electricity resilience, because there's more solutions than building just poles and wires. And I just put up that one of the things that I have realised recently is the importance of anaerobic digestion and using organic food wastes and other waste materials, because these little power plants can run 24/7. They will not break down, they will not let you down. And it's such an important part of how the energy systems in this district could develop. Next one is heat. What is the cheapest way of heating our buildings in the future? How are we going to do that? We're told to run expensive heat pumps, but is that the real answer? I like the thought that as we're entering a solar world, we bring back storage heaters. And once upon a time, the South Island was very famous in the 1950s and 60s. The South Island was seen as an exemplar country, an island, in that we provided surplus hydro to heat our homes and keep communities warm in winter. And through privatisation, we have let these storage heaters be removed. In my shop, I use solar integrated to storage heaters that I have to import from Spain. Well, that's ridiculous, because we could make them again in Timaru, and that's where we made them. So this district could actually be a leader in this area once again, and we're not making night store heaters, we're making heaters to keep homes warm, to make the most of surplus solar. We go to transport. Now, one of the hardest areas of transport to decarbonise is heavy goods vehicles and tractors. So how are we going to do that? There's a lot of talk of hydrogen and electricity, but no one has come up with an ideal design. But where we're going with this in Europe is with biomethane. And biomethane can come from our anaerobic digesters, so they could be part of the district, and we could, as a district, lead this way to use biomethane, which is basically natural gas, in our heavy goods vehicles and tractors. And New Holland have just launched the first biomethane tractor in Europe. So, what I'd love to see is all these interconnections come into a plan, because we have the available technology, but the missing bit is the motivation and the leadership to put all this together. And if we did it right, it would lower costs for the district, as well as providing some of these other benefits like resilience and long-term emission savings. So there you go. Our 10-year clean energy plan is, I believe, an extremely important and timely document. But it does need wise and balanced investment, and it will need some public and private partnerships in terms of getting projects underway. So that's me, except I must finish with this, of course. I can't not finish going back to 1969, and in 1969 a famous album came out called Abbey Road, and on it George Harrison sang a very famous song, which of course is Here Comes the Sun. So there you go, and that's our future. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephen. No, I like your approach. It was fantastic. Any questions for Stephen on energy? Yeah, Given.
Just got a quick question for you, Stephen. We've had plenty of talks about this before, and
sure
we've started
have.
some little groups, but I do have a question because it'd be good the councillors here to hear your answer. We're currently in the process of building a pretty big gym up the road with a pretty big bit of roof space. How much weighted importance do you put on making sure that it could possibly have some solar put on it in the future?
Rooftop solar is the cheapest form of electrical generation, and I favour rooftop solar well before these big solar farms. That's my personal view. And the trick is how you make use of it. It's not putting it there, it's making use of the solar to do something within the school or whatever. And to provide, in the future, batteries, because I think we're entering a world now where there's just a phenomenal growth in batteries around the world. And batteries are going to become more and more part of our lives. Well, we use them now. Every time you charge your iPhone, you're thinking about that every day and charging your battery. That's a very small one. So, yeah, rooftop solar is still very, very important. But it's how it's used, and it's the innovation around the end use that we often miss.
Thank you. Any further questions? No, thank you.
Oh, good.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
No worries. Alrighty. So we'll go now to urgent business. Any urgent business? No. Matters of minor nature? No. Cool. Conflicts of interest? I've just got a conflict in regard to the district licensing agenda items and PX, and Councillor Shannon will chair the meeting on those. So declare that. No others? No. Go now to 7.1 on page 6, which is confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover for those minutes? That was the 7th of May. Oh, is it that minutes? It's that one, actually. So, sorry, apologies. There was just one, the minutes on the 7th. That's correct, isn't it? It is those minutes? Yes. Yeah. On page 18. We just whip through to that. Where there's numbers in the table, if you go to the totals where it says 5401, is actually meant to be 5430. So other than that, with that change in mind, can I have a mover for the minutes on the 7th of May? Councillor Shannon, seconder. Councillor Jackson. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 23 is minutes held on the 27th of May. It's on, yeah. Everyone comfortable with that? Can I have a mover if so? Yeah, Councillor Parker, thank you. Seconder. Councillor Pike. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. We'll just get through a couple of wee quick ones. 8.1, schedule of functions attended by the councillors. I'll move that. Councillor Jackson, happy to second it. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. 8.2 is schedule of functions attended by Chief Executive. Have a move for that one. Councillor Booth, thank you. Councillor Burt, seconder. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. We'll go now to the reports. So we'll deal with 9.1, which is a fixing of the common seal. I'll move that from the chair. Councillor Burt, thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. We will now go to 9.8, and that is on page 144. Independent Auditor's Report. Sketch up. 144. Welcome, Stephen. Speak to the report, and then we'll have the opportunity for John as well.
Kia ora koutou. Through the Mayor, I'm just here to introduce John Mackey, really. The report from Audit New Zealand on the long-term plan should be with you all now on your desk. And so I'd like to invite our Audit Director, John Mackey, to speak to his report.
Right, thank you. So you've got the opinion there, is it's different from what we provide on the financial statements and statement of service performance. We're saying is the long-term plan, does it provide a reasonable basis for integrated decision-making and coordination of council's responses, and does it provide a reasonable basis for accountability to the community? So when you prepare the long-term plan, and I was involved on the other side when I was back in Christchurch City Council in the early 2000s, you're working off the best information you have available. You prepare assumptions on that basis, and you consistently apply those assumptions across the other information that you have. So, so it becomes a complex exercise, and you would have understood that going through the workshops and your multiple iterations you went through with the plan. How does can you afford the capital expenditure you need to deliver the levels of service that you want to provide? And that's just putting it in a very simple point of view. So we've come to this point. We will we'll sign the audit opinion certifying to that, but what I'm not guaranteeing that what's in the plan will be done. It's just, does it meet those couple of things I talked about before? But what I would want to do is observe is that I was involved with the first long-term plan, so that was a major learning curve for the whole sector. And since then, I've either been involved in advising or as an auditor. And my assessment, this was the most difficult LTP round other than that first one, because you started off with uncertainty as to who was to be responsible for Three Waters. You didn't find out about that until late. You've been dealing with major financial pressures. We had a change of government, so that not only changed what is to happen with Three Waters, it's changed what's happening with transport. So, and that's been quite the direction of the coalition government on transport is quite different to their predecessors. So we had an indicative letter come out partway through June, and then we had an announcement made by the minister at the end of last week. All of those created uncertainty and additional work for both the council employees and for Audit New Zealand. So it has been a very challenging process, but I would like to thank Nigel and Trainer and Stephen, Andrea, Steph, Andrew Dixon and their teams. There's been a massive amount of work going to this, and it is a major achievement to get to this point. So I'm open to any questions you've got.
Fantastic, thanks, John. Councillor Scott.
Oh, hi, John. Councillor Stacey Scott, just noting it has literally been tabled in front of me, so I'm just trying to listen to you and read at the same time. But I just have a little bit of concern on page 1 around the unaudited consultation document, and you say here, our opinion on the plan also does not provide assurance that the forecasts in the plan will be achieved, because events do not always occur as expected and variations may be material, nor does it guarantee the accuracy of the information in the plan. So have you read it now? Okay. Have you read what's in front of me?
So what that is we're not providing a guarantee.
My question is the one that is in front of me today, John. Have you read that document that is in front of me?
It's from them.
The LTP.
So that's not out of the audit opinion.
My question, sorry, I'll repeat. Have you reviewed the current long-term plan that I am going to sign off today? You're talking about you didn't approve the consultation document, but are you satisfied with the long-term plan document?
Yeah, so if I can clarify on that. So good question, thank you. So that because we didn't audit the consultation document, we don't offer an opinion on that consultation process. Right. So we're saying the opinion that's on the consultation document differs from the one that's on the long-term plan. So this, so that's what those statements are designed around saying is we didn't issue an audit opinion on the consultation document or the consultation process. We had intended to, but circumstances overrun that.
Ready, further questions? No, looks pretty good. Oh, sorry, Councillor Booth.
Yeah, look, I'm a little bit concerned over the last 3 or 4 years we've been running unbalanced budgets, and it's quite a concern. So there's not really an opinion here around that, and it's not like it's a small amount, it's a significant amount of money each year. In some instances, our figures that we show everyone show that we've actually made money, but in actual fact, we've been negative cash flow, and the use of vested assets and other such mechanisms have disguised the fact that we've been running financially unbalanced for probably 4 years now. And at what stage do you as the auditor actually say, hang on guys, you need to actually sort this out? More cash out than cash in is a problem. So what's your thoughts around that?
Thank you for the question. So as part of the documents that you will be adopting with the long-term plan is the financial strategy, and that has to be prudent. So as part of giving the opinion on the long-term plan, I, on behalf of the Auditor General, have to review your financial strategy to see whether it is prudent or not. So yes, you highlight the fact that the accounting measure for profit, or your surplus or deficit, includes in capital contributions towards capital spending. So what you get from Waka Kotahi to construct your roads, what you get with vested assets, what you get with financial contributions, what you MB for the Theatre Royal. So the prudential benchmarks, the one there for the balanced budget excludes those capital receipts. But when we've looked at whether the financial strategy is prudent or not, we've looked at it and said, well, what's the result you get to at the end? Is debt just keeping on rising? No, it goes down. Is the proportion of your operating costs covered by revenue? Does that get better? You move into the revenue you're getting is more than the expenses by the end of it. So it's not an ideal position to be in as the council is now, but the trajectory in your plan is to get into a lot healthier position.
I guess reviewing the previous 2 long-term plans, each one has blown out. The first long-term plan showed us going to debt of 161 million. The second around 280 million, and here we are now up at 450 million. And so I can only assume the next long-term plan we're going to be around 600 million, and therefore the assumption that perhaps something should start equalising at some point is not actually happening, and that's happened over a period of two long-term plan reviews, which is not a long period of time. So that is a little bit concerning in my mind.
I'm not sure if...
So can I make a comment in relation to that, please?
Yeah, thanks, John.
So what the council has moved to with the last long-term plan was to move into revaluing its infrastructure assets, which means that when you're working out your costs, you're actually looking at them at what the current cost is. So your assets wear out, and when you were doing it on historical cost, you weren't actually reflecting what it was really costing, and you haven't moved as yet to revaluing your buildings, with including those costs. But with not revaluing from back originally when the new regime, when the local government, when Timaru District Council was formed, you had actually been under rating and undercharging your community. So you're actually looking at, you've started that process of reversing that.
You've got that? We might make a T-shirt for you with that one on, actually, Alan. Thanks, John. That's a really good explanation. Further questions? No, thank you. So in regard to that report, sorry, John, anything further to add?
No. That's
Perfect. So the recommendation is that Council receives and notes the verbal update from Audit New Zealand Audit Director John Mackey regarding the long-term plan 2024 to 34. Can I have a move for that? Thank you, Councillor Parker. Councillor Booth. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Cool. So 9.9 now. I'll let Stephen introduce that. Obviously, there's a few changes, which were the changes that we requested after the hearings and deliberation time. But I'll let Nigel. Did you want to introduce that?
Yeah, just before Stephen introduces that, I want to publicly thank the staff that were involved in the LTP. So you got Stephen, Andrea, Brendan, Megan, and Steph, and before that, Vincy. So this team have worked tirelessly, and I know in the last week or two, extensive hours went into actually getting this plan ready to get the audit opinion we received today, so as we're actually delivering in statutory timeframe. So well done, team, and thanks very much.
Cool. Thank you, Nigel. So from the team, we're pleased to present the long-term plan 2024 to 34 for your adoption today. You've heard from John Mackey, who's provided an opinion on, which is on your desks, which we got at just before the meeting today. So now we've got everything in place to allow you to proceed with the adoption. From the staff and from the team who've put this together, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the councillors actually for all the hours you put into the creation of this plan, including taking time to listen to the public and the time you spent deliberating to give us a clear steer on the big issues. So the way we do this today is you need to step through a number of recommendations to adopt various policies, the changes that were made during deliberations, such as the water metering, the City Town programme and the community board funding. And then you set the fees and charges for 24-25, adopt a financial strategy, adopt the infrastructure strategy, and there's a resolution to permit an unbalanced budget in accordance with Section 100. Then you adopt a long-term plan. And then the last recommendation is you authorise the Chief Executive and the Mayor to make some minor amendments. This is things like spelling mistakes and moving Councillor Booth from Temuka into Timaru. It's amazing how many times you can read something and not pick that up. So that's small minor things. It's nothing material that will be changed in that process, and that's just a final document, which also includes the auditor's opinion. Again, thank all the team. It's been a challenging one, and we've been having really constructive conversations with Audit New Zealand for the last few weeks. It's been an enjoyable process. But it really is an all of council effort, this one, from the councillors to nearly every staff member, every manager, yourselves and the community. So it takes a lot to put into what is quite a big document at the end of the day. So we can take all the reports as read, and we'll welcome your discussion and then stepping through the resolutions required to adopt the plan.
Brilliant, thanks team. Alrighty, we'll do just that. Look to the recommendations from the paper, what we decided on deliberation day. Does anyone have any questions specifically to any of those recommendations, or open the floor for any discussion before we look to adopt? I do, I'll start if you like. I did have a question. We talked around the reinstatement, etc., of those funds, but we did talk about from existing budgets. We're comfortable that that can be achieved.
We'll achieve those. The financials have been set out in long-term plan. That's our, I won't use the word target. So effectively, they've been built into the financials of the long-term plan. We're now going to be accountable to those.
Brilliant. Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Pye.
I just have some questions on the attachments and some of the policies and things like that, but is it now the time to ask them?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So the first, I have a few, sorry. The first ones are in the Treasury Management Policy.
Just give us a page.
So these are in the attachments, It's page 6.
Thank you.
And because I don't think we've seen these again since we discussed them at a council meeting, and I'm still not convinced we have the definitions of debt cap, total revenue, total expenses and cash flows correct. Well, mostly total revenue and the debt cap, and I feel that we've overcooked the definition of total revenue, and it's not entirely clear. And then our debt cap points directly to total revenue, and this has been an ongoing issue and discussion. And it worries me that total revenue includes some things like our favourite vested assets and some asset revaluations, although not the infrastructure asset revaluations. And I thought the intent in this room was that we didn't want those things included when we're talking about debt cap, because they tend to be one-off in nature. Sorry, that was quite a long
but
question.
relative still complying with accounting standards, etc. John, did you pick up on that conversation? Just interested to hear your thoughts.
Yes, I did. We've worked our way through the benchmarks, and they either meet what's in the prudential regulations or what your definitions are. But I wasn't party to the discussions that you have when you were debating about total revenue, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess my question is, there's two things here. One is, when we're measuring against our funding covenants, what is the definition they use, and we should potentially be using the same one. But my second one is, if we have a revaluation of TDHL, for example, that then gets factored into our debt cap, and it will be in there 1 year but not the next. And we could find that we meet our debt cap 1 year, and then when that revaluation is not in that income, we don't meet it the next year. And so I thought the intention in this room was trying to get a definition for income used in the debt cap that would be prudent.
Yeah. I think, Andrew, did you want to speak to that? I remember the conversation, but I think the challenge was actually to bring it into the policy. It's
around the legislation. How we practically calculate it is the way that we'll calculate it, but from a legislative perspective, we have to stick to those definitions.
Have they been copied and pasted out of legislation, or have we written these ourselves?
So they've been from the trust deeds when it comes to the calculation of our income associated with our borrowings. Yeah.
Yeah, but the key thing is they complied. Take your point though around, that's right. We'll go now to Councillor Booth and then we'll come back, I think. Councillor Pye, you had something else?
I guess, is this our policy or is it someone else's? I mean, okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, we should not have anything described as income other than the money that we're getting, and that is basically dividends. It's, but certainly not infrastructure that's been given to us in kind or whatever, because that's of no use to pay the bills or pay the money back. And in actual fact, every single thing we get like that is a liability, and we're responsible for the ongoing maintenance of that. So literally, it should not be considered as income, and certainly if this is what we want as a council, it comes out. So as we actually are dealing and not getting ourselves in more trouble and thinking we've got some income when we haven't, and we've got no money to pay the bills, and we're borrowing that money and loading up the future ratepayers.
I agree with your sentiment, but I think the requirement is still that we have to meet legislation, accounting standards, etc., within these definitions. I think that they're going to have to be two separate things. We're not going to comply if we put a definition of revenue which isn't correct.
I think a solution is we could, this debt cap using total revenue is per our borrowing contracts. We could easily report to council a debt cap against cash inflows. So you can actually have both. So there's no reason why we can't, but it doesn't necessarily need to be part of the Treasury. It could just be it could be a governance measure that you keep an eye on.
And that potentially could also...
I mean, vested assets, they aren't a liability. They're actually an asset. They're an asset under the ground. Yes, it may increase our maintenance costs over time, but they are actually an asset. And they do come through as revenue, so they're legitimate revenue, legitimate assets. Just means, but the offside is we've got to look after them, because that asset does create value to our ratepayers and us, and the very nature of delivering the water or taking the sewage away.
If they sit on the books of a utility company, they would be an asset. Comfortable with that? I think we're all in agreement around. Yeah, but and I guess the question too is can we put a note in annual reports around those sort of things as well potentially? But it's into the future. So any other questions? Everyone comfortable with page 1 with those recommendations? Comfortable that's what we talked about? Or any, Michelle, did you have any reference to other policies? Today is the opportunity.
Good, sorry.
No, you're right, don't apologise.
So in the same policy, I think it is 19.3, we state that we do not acquire properties for investment purposes, yet very shortly after we say that we buy forestry for investment. So just like there's just some little things that just don't align, that perhaps may be too late to change this time, but should be noted for the next update, I thought. That was the only... Oh, there was one more, sorry. Back in the definition of liquid assets, I think it was. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. When we talk about, because this is a new definition, I think, in liquid assets, well, it's slightly different anyway, it says that they're defined as cash, short-term deposits and loans to subsidiaries, but surely they would only be on-demand loans to subsidiaries we've got, depending on what arrangements we've got with the loan. So I just thought that perhaps that might need tweaked next time. That was all on that policy.
Righty, nearly there then, team. We'll go back to 145. If there isn't any further discussion, pretty keen to have a mover for this. Sorry?
Are you just moving one?
No, I'm talking about...
all of them?
No, talking about all of them, yeah. Yeah.
Moving to the attachments, fees and charges, or should we work through those? Because I've got questions on fees and charges.
No, that's why, the fees and charges, that's why I'll work through those. Yeah, that's in, hold on. Okay, so you wanting to make changes, questions in regard to, okay, well that's why I did ask at the front in regard to all those recommendations.
Yeah,
So,
well, I
yeah,
thought we were
so
working.
that's fine, let's go to fees and charges then. Just give us a reference, Councillor Scott. Sorry, your mic's just gone off.
I just questioned in some of our facility costings, we've made a change to our bonds. So we originally always charged a bond, but now in everything we charge no bond, and that's a change from the last document. So I just wondered if someone's got an explanation to that change.
Which page are you on?
And there's heaps of them.
Yeah,
All the facilities, Caroline Bay Lounge, Aorangi Pavilions, every one, we've now removed the bonds from our original documentation.
Thank you for your question. So to clarify, we elected to remove the bonds in order to streamline the processes for online bookings in Bookable. We found that a lot of the bonds, it was an administrative nightmare for the teams inside who were then having to refund them, so they weren't going back into our revenue streams anyway. So it was more around process improvement.
Concerned about how you hold people accountable.
We have made a kind of a risk assessment associated with that because we just haven't had to retain a lot of those bonds over the last few years. So there's been minimal damage. We don't have large events that, 21st birthday parties where damage is normally, required that we keep that money.
Councillor Scott, anything further in the, no? No, cool, okay. I'm going to stay with you if you like, if you've got further questions.
Anyone else have any questions on fees and charges? Okay, I'll move to long-term plan then. My only question was the funding stadium 22.2 and we consulted on 25. I just want to know why the significant change.
What page are we on?
Throughout the document, the main one is page 106 of the attachment document. So it has the stadium and the 10-year CapEx work program, Aorangi Stadium 22.2. We've always consulted on 25, and I just want an explanation on the $2.8 million drop.
What was the original number you had, Councillor Scott? Was it
25 million is what we've always had. So
Yeah.
just wondering why, who.
Does it take out the 10%, whatever the original number was? Is it the 10% community fundraising?
So in 2027, there's also an additional $1.5 million. So the total for Aorangi Stadium over the life of the plan is 24 million. This is an additional. I'm looking at the CapEx schedule. No, I'm not in the plan. I'm in the spreadsheet.
Oh, your own spreadsheet.
The capital spreadsheet.
Okay, so that's not.
So it could be a typo.
So that's not consistent with this document, and you're also $1 million short. So this document just has one straight line of 24 to 27 of 22.2. So even if you have your 1 point whatever, we're still another $1 million short. So
Do you think that's a typo?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So what should it be? 25 million? Is 24 still not enough?
So if we're including the 1.8 million to do with the Aorangi master plan document, is just over $24 million.
The number does feel like it's changed We'll get this one sorted and then move on.
So the whole document, okay, so everywhere where it references the stadium, that will need to be changed then? But I'm still confused so where's the $1 million? So we're still $1 million difference from our consultation document. If you've got 24, but we consulted on, we've always had 25. So you've found another 1.8 million I can't see, which still makes me nervous. So you have 24 million, but where is the other million? Can someone tell me why we've dropped $1 million?
I don't know.
Okay, so we need to find the answers to that, I suggest, because I feel like that's not.
Right, we'll park that and come back to that before we move forward. We'll go, as Councillor Booth, and then I'll go Councillor Piddington. Thanks.
I'm just with Councillor Scott. We need to get the number right, because I know it's happened before. In a year's time, we'll look back and say, no, you only had that amount, and we'll be short. So let's get the right amount in the document and the references to it.
So we'll circle back to that. Councillor Booth.
I'm not sure if there's any interest in what I've got to talk about here, but the water metering, $2 million a year, that's, have we actually done monetarised that, the benefits of that? We're going to put all these new pipes in the ground, then we're going to turn all the taps off, we're not going to use them. So, you know, pipe doesn't matter about the water flow in the pipe. If there's an issue with water supply, it's a water supply issue. We haven't got enough water, but we've got shitloads. So why are we doing that?
I think, some of the discussions we've had around the benefits of water metering can delay their need for CapEx investment. There's lots of pros and cons. I think we have kicked this around considerably. It's a very good question. Though I don't want to feel like I'm brushing you aside. But I think we've done that one to death. Further questions, and then I know Mr. Trainer's just having a look at that, and we'll circle back to that other point. Councillor Pye.
So I think I discovered over the weekend that apparently, according to the Local Government Act, that our UAGC can't be more than 30%. So that was news to me, but obviously not to you guys. But I wondered if in future that should be part of our financing policy, because it's not. Is it in there? Oh, is it? Because I went and had a look. Well, yeah. Well, when I looked, or maybe I was looking at the wrong policy, but I couldn't see it in there. But my other question, I was kind of hoping Mr. Trainer might have been here to answer it, was I just want to be clear that when we say we're not going to fund our depreciation fully, in those first couple of years, and we talk about, this next year 60% and the year after 80%, and we gradually step up. But so that's okay, so that's what we're doing in our budget. But when we prepare our accounts and Mr. Mackey audits them, don't we have to depreciate at 100%? Like, surely we don't just go, here's our depreciation calculation, and we said we're only going to fund it 70%, so we're only putting 70% in. So therefore, isn't this some of the problem that we've had, in that our depreciation is going to be way different to what we've budgeted, and our loss is massive?
So the depreciation won't change, but the funding of the capital works, when the depreciation essentially is collected through your rates, is put aside to pay for your capital. So essentially the borrowings have to increase to cover that shortfall in the depreciation that hasn't been collected through rates. Yeah.
Makes sense. Thanks very much.
Good question. Any further questions? Councillor Booth.
Just clarify what the biodiversity fund is.
Yes. Remember last month when we did talk about this? So there's $100,000, about 70% of it is committed to funding in and around supporting of SNAs. A lot of it's going directly to farmer benefit to support those things on site. There's about 30,000 discretionary. We talked about sorry, what's her name, from up the Upper Rangitata about putting that funding in over the 6 years. So that sort of broadly covers it, yeah. So, and it'd been 100,000 since for some time, and it was just reinstating it back to that amount. Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Pye.
Sorry, this is just for my understanding. So when we've got the rate examples, they've changed quite dramatically, and I see that we've now got what I assume is the new GVs in there. And so, for example, Geraldine has gone from what looked like an 18% increase to now only being a 14% increase, and everything seems more aligned. Can you just talk me through how that change works? Because I see that we've changed the UAGC from our original budget, and I'm guessing the mix of the UAGC and the general rates, but how does that calculation kind of work? Is there a model on the back? I'm assuming you don't just go, let's change this figure.
There is a model in the back, yes. But it depends on what category changed. So, for example, land value for domestic increased 25%, but commercial went up to 35%. So essentially commercial would have gone up and then domestic slightly.
Sorry, so how do we make the decision on the UAGC? Like, because that's changed a bit from the draft. And so who makes that decision? Because we had a UAGC in the draft one and now it's a different amount.
So I think it's the way the model calculates it, depending on the type of, the value of property that's in the background behind it and what it needs to cover. It's a nightmare.
Value, sorry. Oh, you go.
We in the past, my understanding of rates is we've agreed a component percentage. So the valuations in some ways don't matter. It's only if you're out of kilter with the average that it goes up. Correct or not?
No, it's an average across all of the properties. So some will be up, some will be down, depending on what it was. So when we had set it prior to the new values coming in, Timaru residential, for example, was showing at 16%, and then other ones were lower. So they've sort of balance themselves.
I guess we'll get clarity when we do our rating review.
Correct.
On the stadium, in the draft it was at 25. There was further work done in terms of potentially going to a similar build to what we have in Christchurch, which was done at a much lower price. And at that point, when we went through all of the constant rework on the capital, it was pulled back because we had a clear costing that it could be done for a lot lower than 25. So therefore, it was pulled back to 22. And that was done by in a workshop as well as locally. So that's why it was pulled back.
We haven't even got this out to the market, and once again, we don't even have an RFP. So we've consulted on 25 million, and I feel very uncomfortable that we've looked at something that's in Christchurch, and then we decide to take it down. We have no idea how much this stadium's going to cost. So wouldn't we just keep our budget at 25 million?
No, the decision was to pull it back.
Whose decision?
It was made collectively by people in various workshops, staff
so not
and
councillors.
No, councillors were there.
I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but has this group decided that we should reduce this to 22.2 million? Because I obviously was not attending.
I obviously wasn't intending either, because that's a weird way to do things. I mean, we consult on a number. I'm with Stacey. We haven't even tested the market. And then if it comes in at 25, we're going to get told, oh, no, we're not going to do it, it's $3 million over.
No, you can still do it. It's just that you notify a material change through your annual plan. So the LTP can still stand, and if it comes in at 25, you can notify in your annual plan a material change.
That seems a mad way to do it, I'm sorry. I mean, we've consulted on 25 because it's not only the stadium build, it's the car park, it's supporting hockey, there was lighting. To just grab $3 million because it suits a budget isn't the way to do it.
There was also, as you remember, there's pressure on the debt cap. That was part of actually getting to within the 2.5.
This project was the easiest one to throw some money out of. There wasn't in that entire program of work, we couldn't have taken 200,000 out of everyone else. It seems that this project is always the poor cousin to, and it hasn't even got anywhere. Wouldn't it be nice if we pulled $3 million out of a few other things?
Agree that I think in our mind it should be there. What we've got to move forward on though is this LTP, which has been audited up to this point. So we don't know those numbers until the market comes back and tells them. It's the same for what we're waiting for the Theatre Rural project. So there again, those are decisions where they have to make material changes or not. So I know not perfect, but I think we still need to move forward.
I guess my problem is in a year's time, people will look back to this and say, you only said 22 million.
Yeah,
and everyone forgets that it actually is 25, and for expediency somewhere, we've whacked $3 million off the project. So it's kind of hard to swallow.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I don't think anyone's going to forget around this table. Yeah. Any further discussion on that? Alrighty. So again, if you can just whip through, I'm going to give you a minute to whip through those recommendations. Is there any further questions that are outstanding before we sign this off, please? Just give you a minute to confirm you're comfortable with everything in there or not, and you can state that if so when we move these.
I want to review the city town then, so should we take some money out of that and the recommendations to even it out?
No, this isn't about making these changes now.
I still haven't got a feeling from around the table that everyone agreed to 22
No, and that's,
billion.
yeah, and you're able to note those objections when we get to the recommendations. Work through, so everyone work through these, and then you can speak to those points and put them on note on the record if need be.
Sorry, Nigel, depending on how the conversation goes, can we make a resolution 10 that we note that the stadium budget should have been 25 and or something along those lines? We just want to think about that.
Deal with that when we need to deal with it?
I think that's where the confusion gets in, because we use the language of stadium budget. Now, we're about to send an RFP out, and there have been user group and council saying we need to put the budget out, and the budget is not 25 million for the stadium. And I think that that's the confusing part. We're talking about two different things. One is the stadium, and one is the master plan for that Aoragi stadium. I think they've got confused. And I think this 22 is for the stadium, not the whole master plan.
So where is the money sitting for all the other aspects of the park then?
It's not there.
What, so we won't have car parking, we won't have the roads, we won't have all the infrastructure that sits alongside it, so that's not in this budget. So
There's been a costing done that's come to people of $21 million to do that.
that project, there is a Timaru District Council budget line that will not include the build to the stadium. We've had this discussion this morning. So you'll have construction, you'll have our own responsibilities, and then there'll be fixtures and fittings and all of that. So where is that current full budget sitting then? Because are you saying that none of that's in this now?
No,
So-
there's also the fundraising, the 10% fundraising, which is 10% of the total 22.2 is not included in here. We can't include it because it's not our funds.
I'm
So on
talking
top of
about-
this 22.2, there's to be 10% fundraising. That brings you up to about 24 and a half.
But I'm still confused because Andrea's just told us there is money somewhere else, but we're not seeing that. But then there's so many other...
Oh, I must be in the other room, sorry.
Yeah. So, but there's about 24 total, and there's a fundraising component, so that would get you above that amount. Look, I think what I would say is there's projects all the time, as we are aware, officers come to us requesting funds when things are over budget or a report when it's under. So I get the sentiment and the concern that it's not sitting in there in regard to the number, but I don't think it's the be-all and end-all as far as not actually delivering that project for the community. So is there any further, you've already had opportunity now to work through those 1 to 9. I was hoping that we just move them all together. If anyone wants to, they can put their comments on record specifically to their vote. Councillor Shannon, are you?
Happy to move.
Happy to move. As a whole, all together, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Parker. Yeah, fantastic. So further discussion in regard to that, and thanks, Councillor Piddington.
Yeah, I just want my concerns noted over the $3 million gone missing from the stadium budget, just so when we reflect on it in a year, those concerns were noted.
Yeah. Just to follow that, it's actually 1 million because Andrea said there's 1.8 million that's missing from that capital program, so it's just 1. So I presume that will be updated to say 24 million. Yep.
So that includes the master plan as well. So the 1.8 is associated with the master plan.
What master plan?
The Arangi Stadium master plan that was put together. And the stadium was in here at 22.
Well, what I'll do is I'll...
10% on top of that for the fundraising. Yeah.
What I'll do is when there's no further discussion, I'll move it. Then I'll just get any comments to add to the minutes. So any further discussion around the motion? No, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Opportunity, Councillor Piddington first.
Yeah, I just want it noted, and I'm going to call it 3 million because I don't know about 1.8 in any master plan for Arangi Stadium. I'm sorry. So I just want it noted that if we look back, the original budget was 25 million. So we're 3 short on this one.
Cool, perfect. And everyone comfortable with that? Councillor Scott, you comfortable with that comment? Perfect. Thank you. That has got us through 9.9. We'll move now to resolution to set the rates, which is on page 151. Thank you. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Any questions from elected members? No, I'm happy to move the recommendation for 9.10, which is resolution to set rates. Councillor Booth, happy to second it. Thank you. Any discussion? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Brilliant. Too easy, wasn't it easy? Thank you from elected members as well to all the team members within the organisation. We really appreciate all that work. Thank you, John, as well, for all your work with our team. I know you're finishing this year, but I think we get to see you one last time, potentially at the next Audit and Risk meeting. But thanks
Yes.
for all your work with the team to get the LTP through on time.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your cooperation.
Brilliant, thank you. Okie dokie. So we're going to move stuff around a little bit. We're going to get the team that have been waiting out the back. We're going to go to 9.3, which is Venture Timaru Quarterly Report. So welcome Tony and Nigel. And that is on page 79. Welcome. Go for it. Yep, just we're in your hands. Nigel and Tony.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll take it as read. This is our quarterly report through to the period ending March.
Sorry, and apologies, I should have, and welcome to our new chair of Venture Timaru, Tony Bryan. Great to have you with us.
So this is the quarterly report for the period through to 31st of March 24, but some of the associated commentary, given it's submitted in the time frame, heads through to the start of June. So I will take it as read. Slight change in the format to provide you with more detail around what's happened in relation to our 3 strategic priorities under our current year's SOI, both what we've been up to in that respect and what some of the next steps are, and a commentary as usual on the local economy. And as you'll see there, and we reported on in a press release, the results up to the end of March have been a bit of a mixed bag for the district, some pluses, some minuses, and we're into that sort of winter hibernation period as well. Speaking to a number of the employers around the district, the labour market, which has traditionally been really tight for us, has softened pretty significantly. A number are receiving really good applications for a variety of roles right across the spectrum, so which is pleasing. But like anything, the current environment around the cost of living, interest rates still up there, although set to come down if you believe what you read in the papers, is still relatively challenging as well. So just a couple of things just to remind you. Obviously, this evening at 7:30 on TV3 is the debut of Traitors, which we can say now publicly was filmed here through April. Massive thanks to Stephen Doran, the Mayor and staff involved, helped us sit alongside the production crew to make sure that they were really happy, and also to the heavens above for letting us have fantastic weather through that month of April, which will show off the district really well. So. The other bit was really just in relation to, we've touched on it in there, we believe there is a paper either coming to council, which is just around gathering some of that data around those that are utilising our Caroline Bay area, both in the Freedom parking areas, but also some options to gather the data and ultimately come to a bit of a user pays around those that are coming in through the gate and using it for camping through the New Year period as well. So we had a good catch up with Caroline Bay Association, or the new people on board at Caroline Bay Association. So I think between us all, there's something we can do there to shift the dial. So, but that's a discussion for another day. So yeah, I think that's all from me, unless Tony wants to add.
Well, I'd just like to congratulate you and thank you for the work you've done on this LTP from a ratepayer point of view as much as a completely district point of view. It's a tough gig to do, so thank you for your time and effort on that. While I'm sure some of those have been tough decisions and some of those will be striking our ratepayers in difficult ways, as you know, our 2050 focus is about being positive, and we will take this district going further and as fast as we can in that way, so that there is a good future for the district. It is going to be positive, and we're all going to work here to make that happen. So while we've got some challenging headwinds at the moment, economics has always been like this. This is nothing new. We will come out of it. We will come forward, and we look forward to working with you on that.
Thanks, Tony. And we can talk to that, within the statement of intent potentially. And and I 100% agree with you. It's interesting, Councillor Scott and I were at an infrastructure symposium and we listened to Bill English, who very much cut through all the paperwork to get to the action, was sort of what I got from it. And I'm really conscious of, while we're preparing strategies, which I think are great, that we don't forget about the opportunities that are sitting in front of us. And, you know, there's things that I think we should, put on steroids, for want of better expression, that we are attracting a business and going out there and, hunting them out, those businesses that should be. And I know some of that work's in stage 2, but I think there's probably of that work with Benji. But I think there's some bits that we potentially could pull out of that and really move forward quicker, because I think, and the challenge that we have is, people look, whether it's businesses in the CBD and vacant shops, and, council has a firm role in economic development, but the problem that we have when we've got the CCO at arm's reach, people ask us, what are you doing? Well, we're like, well, it sits over there. So I think the approach just has to be more joined up, and we would certainly be supportive to give that a real push. I agree with the strategy and the aspiration, but I think there's some elements that let's just get our teeth into today.
We came from a board meeting this morning where we were very clear time is not our friend, and we have to move. We cannot, and so things will be moving. We have to move them. It's not a choice. If we're not going to move faster, we'll be following, and we don't want to be in a position of following. So time is not our friend, so we acknowledge that.
Fantastic. Any questions? Yeah, Councillor Shannon, thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very quickly, and probably following on from what you were saying, me and Nigel, this is why one of the reasons I was very, very excited to read this section here on making it happen. That excites me, and it sounds like there's genuine actions there that will have measurable results, and a lot of what we've talked about the last 18 months or so looks very, very good. And the statement here that we could potentially triple Timaru's economy by 2050. Good grief. Let's hope that happens. I'd love to see the data behind that one, by the way.
It's a lot of bagpipes.
Pardon?
It's a lot of bagpipes.
It's a load of bagpipes, yes, yeah. And just a question with regards to some of these resources, showcasing Timaru resource, welcome to Timaru resource and what have you. Do they say Timaru district? They do. They're all Timaru district, not just Timaru.
Thank you, Councillor Shannon. Yeah, most definitely every resource we have around people, visitor, business attraction is Timaru district. And in fact, we utilise the term Central South Island a wee bit as well in there as well. So. But yeah, definitely not just Timaru. One Temuka lad to another, so definitely.
My Temuka brother, yeah.
Need to separate the ward councillors, actually. Councillor Piddington.
Just a couple of questions. We talk about the cruise ships, and it's mentioned here. I mean, anecdotally, and probably it is correct, but last time I think I asked whether we could get some paymark or some receipts around Visa cards or whatever to see what these cruise ships actually bring us. Is that still on the card?
Yeah, that information that you're after, we've been working with Infometrics to collate some of the initial stuff, but it comes out, it gets released to Cruise NZ in, I think the cruise conference this year is in August that Prime Port and us are attending, so we get that full data then. So the full report on the economic impact with all that stuff that you're asking for, Councillor Piddington, will be available early September. So.
And is that specifically Timaru?
Yes, okay. Yep, will be specifically Timaru.
Timaru district,
yep.
Yeah.
The one last time we did was a bit anecdotal because there hadn't been a big cruise season prior, so it was based on some of the previous, but most definitely the one you get in September will have all that data and then some.
Cool. I don't want you to speak for Winston Peters, but you're quite bullish last time on Scott Base and we'd get some...
Yeah.
With all the stuff in the media, are you still confident we're just not going to flat pack something out to Antarctica?
I'm definitely not going to talk for Winston Peters, so thank you for preempting that. I met with Antarctic NZ up in Christchurch last Monday. and they advised that the decision had been made. Last time I spoke to you, and it was in the paper, there were 4 options put to the board. They've decided on one. We understand that Timaru was in all of those 4 options to some extent. A, we don't know which one they've chosen until it comes out in the public, and B, we don't know to what extent Timaru is. I remain very optimistic still.
It's in the name. It's hard not to. Glass half full. Councillor Jackson.
Love the talk around the towards 2050 aspirations. It's pretty big aspirations, which is good. And you talk about being positive, which is excellent. And it's wonderful that we've got the TV show Traitors on TV tonight showing us off. But I'm just curious as to how else are we getting that message out to the rest of New Zealand that this is a great place to come to? We're talking a lot of positive stuff here. So how are we getting that message out? What sort of activators are we using to do that?
So it's a wide variety, really. The messaging to attract people to come and live, come and work, come and establish a business and come and visit isn't too dissimilar. So the key is really around utilising those variety of platforms, whether they're seasonal campaigns, whether they're promotion of events, whether they're utilising print media and or brochures around putting Timaru out there as the place to come and live and do business. So it's a variety of methods. It's not one cap fits all. Am I right? Yeah. So yeah, I think the key here too is that we've just got to make sure that we play to our strengths, we play to adjacent strengths, which we talk about in the Towards 2050 as well, but it's also making sure we don't overpromise and underdeliver either. So that's making sure that when we're attracting business, we're attracting the right business for us. It's not a scattergun approach, and it is also around ensuring that we've got the land, we've got the power, we've got the water, we've got the people, and we've got the services, the health, the education, all backing it up. So a variety of ways in terms of targeted campaigns. The initial work around 2050 is understanding in more depth around the current barriers, but more importantly, the opportunities that are facing us in relation to those key enablers, health, education. We talk, Councillor Booth, as your representative alongside Councillor Scott at our table, talks a lot about our central location. We're on State Highway 1, we've got a port, we've got an airport. To 80% of the population within 2.5 hours of us in the South Island. They're all key strengths of ours, and it's a matter of us amplifying those even further, but ensuring we've got all those other things backing it up. We have got the ability to attract the people, we've got the ability to give them the power and the water and that they need. To take the Mayor's point too, it is very much, council are an enabler in that space, but at the end of the day, it comes down to us as the Economic Development Agency, it comes down to us individually as advocates of the district to get out there and say, you've got a new business or you've got a business, you haven't got a business in the South Island, you need to be here and this is why.
We'll go Councillor Oliver and then Councillor Pike.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just got a quick question for you, Nigel. Just looking at the latest data through census, since 2018, 2.3% growth in new house dwellings, second lowest in the country. How do we turn that around? Because we need to turn it around. We do need to turn it around, you're right. The reality is, yes, we've got to attract more. We bluntly, at the end of the day, the Towards 2050 identified swing the dial and it's more people. We need more people to come and live, set up their business to work. Realistically, it is a case of identifying, where they're going to live, opening up that land, engaging with those developers and let the market decide effectively. I provided, or we, Venture Timaru provided some figures. I think in the last 20 years, Ashburton's opened up twice as much land as what the Timaru district has, but our sections are sold 35% faster.
I think what would be good and interesting is what is the business growth in the Ashburton district over that time? Because it's a bit of a chicken and egg. If you just build houses and allow for people to come, that's fine, but you need the job. So that's why I turn to the focus around attracting business, and then that will increase demand for housing. Part of the reason that the houses haven't been built is actually the demand's not there to build the houses. So, yeah, I turn my mind back to I know I'm a little bit one-eyed and I might not be, and I know others will have some difference of opinion, but we focus on attracting business, and there can be a fourth pillar if we need one. That's my view.
The thing is, this is not a perfect science. This is always going to be chicken and egg. We can only do the best we can with what we've got. The comment about barriers are only opportunities yet to be solved. That's all they are. If you continue to think as barriers, we don't go anywhere. They're just something that we need to look at and find a solution to. And that's what we need to be, solution focused, so we can go forward.
I think the other thing too, Councillor, is that it's the diversity of the type of housing we've got as well. We've got to make sure that we're meeting the market or giving the changing preference of our workers and our new residents and even our existing residents the opportunity to live in and near our towns, our CBDs, those sorts of things as well. And Council's committed to that, the Making It Happen work stream, and that's exactly that. It's establishing an environment and step back and let the market decide. So, and we've already there's a wide variety of people, there's a good number of people that are actually doing it within the current environment that, some of the inner and near city living and near town living. So it's to take Tony's point and the Mayor's point, there is no exact science with this, and sometimes it is a bit of chicken and egg, and sometimes it's the egg and the chicken. But we do need more diversity in our housing stock, and that's not that instead of that, it's actually all of it. So, one of the conversations we had recently at one of our food processors, Oceana advised us that when they first started, nearly 80% of their staff actually lived in Timaru. Now that 80% actually live in Oamaru.
Councillor Pye.
I'm not sure if this is a question for you or Mr. Cooper, sitting in the back. You're going to do your housing preference survey, which is great. We've been asking for that for a while. But what use is this going to be to us if I feel like we're always hamstrung by a growth management strategy. And so I guess my question is, will that survey feed into us updating that growth management strategy? Because even when I was reading through some of the Section 42 reports to the proposed district plan, it keeps referring back to the same growth management strategy that I've been hearing for ages around this room we didn't get quite right. So I guess the question is twofold. What are you going to do with the information from the survey? And for Mr. Cooper, what is the opportunity to update that growth management strategy, or is there none?
Yep, I'll answer your first question first, if I can, before Mr. Cooper has a crack. Most definitely, we've been asked to provide more data around this housing. We're hearing it from our big employers. We've got diversity of our global workforce that are wanting to live differently to what we as New Zealanders traditionally live. So specifically, to get more data around that, both from existing residents, new to the district residents, to inform council going forward. And my thoughts on that is most definitely it folds right into what you're talking about. Pass across to Mr. Cooper.
Thank you kindly, Nigel. Through you, Mr. Chair. The bar in terms of an evidential foundation for Environment Court, which is where these topics are tested, is high, and it is rearward looking. It is not aspirational, because it deals with what the evidence says about where we've come from and predicts where we're going. The census data that came out recently was within cooey of, it wasn't quite as high as we'd hoped, for the predictions that we needed for the future development areas that are going to the hearings panel for the district plan review. If you cover your ears there, Councillor Scott, please. She's not switched on anyway, it's good. No, it's good. No. But so in short, it's useful, it's interesting, but it probably won't help in the longer thing. I think what you're after is what can we do? And I think that's already been pointed out in the Collier's report and other information that we've received in the last 3 or 4 years, which is the only way for council to make a meaningful difference or a step change in what is predicted from our consultant people that have provided this information based on their expertise is for council to become a developer where it controls outcomes and it owns land. So without that control in the market or without partnering with a private sector entity and having some controls in outcome, very little will change.
With the growth management strategy, what triggers an update of that? Is it time-bound like the district plan where you're supposed to do it every 10 years or do you just update it whenever you want? Like, how does that process work?
I'd have to ask one of the planning boffins for the time in terms of what's current, but the one that's before, we refreshed the growth management strategy in 2021, I think, and we managed to get some little the future development areas into the thinking, and they've gone into the proposed district plan and they'll be considered through this process, and they will be tested by that independent body, and we don't know what will come out of the other side. One thing that is in the mix that's not really been talked about here is the reform that's been signalled. So I think Minister Bishop has talked about a 30-year growth horizon and zoning for 30 years. Well, our FDAs are for 27 years, or they were when they went in. So we're more or less aligned with that aspirational growth that the Minister's talked about. So if we can get access to that reform, and it's not just for Tier 1 and 2 councils, then we may be able to open up that land in accordance with the new law when it comes in, but not until it can be considered. So it's not a thing until it's actually enforced, so the panel can't consider it at the moment.
I think our bigger issue is industrial land, to be honest. I mean, if we want growth, people have got to have roles, and we're fast running out of that. And I also have a bit of a view that sometimes you have to test these processes and you actually have to go a little bit more aggressive on them, because if you don't ask for it, you don't get it. And, you know, I've learned that through a number of processes. If you don't really go to the really test it, I mean, analogy, Richie McCaw, he always tested the rule book. He got caught out sometimes, but a lot of the times he got what he wanted. And I think we need to start thinking that way.
One question for Nigel. I went down a lot of rabbit holes in the weekend, but so I was looking at your resources for your employers, and I wondered if you'd be kind enough to feature the Timaru District Council jobs on your page.
That's just if you look on the back of that last change, just an answer for you, Councillor Pye, as well, in regard to the FDA. So when the growth management was changed and you've put in FDAs, that actually has triggered the change of ownership of land, whether it gets developed and what time, but it actually has triggered some action, which is interesting. Also, Nigel T and I, with the Mayoral Forum, are meeting with Minister Bishop tomorrow, so we've said before around the MPS for urban development, and we'll get a chance to sort of layer that, because I know that a lot of the other provincial councils have the similar sort of view. So, Councillor Puddington?
Sorry, no, I just got a question going back, and it's on our registers of updates as well. These swipe cards that you're handing out, who are you handing them to and what for? Right back on, you talked about freedom campers, because...
Sorry. No, we're definitely not handing out any swipe cards. What it is that as the RTO, we've observed quite a substantial use, obviously, of the camper van car park down by the rink, also in the middle of the Loop Road. And then at the time of Kaylee Bell's concert and through that Christmas period, a volume of camper vans camping free of charge, effectively, on that green space in Caroline Bay. We got introduced actually by Claire Barlow from her role at Mackenzie to an entity that has the ability to gather some of that data. And that includes things like, swipe in, swipe out, these sorts of things. So we had a presentation, Bill was there as well, had a presentation from these people. It's an opportunity for us, I say us, sitting in this room, to gather more data on that usage so we can make an informed decision around, we're not saying no to, I'll talk the global we here, we're not saying no, people can't camp on Caroline Bay, but we may want to allow them. That's a decision for council to make. But you've got to make that informed decision with some of that data going, right, how often are those areas currently being used at the moment? Because realistically, there's a cost for those people coming through that boom gate over the time of the Caroline, the carnival, and camping there free of charge. Council or council contractors have to empty the rubbish bins and keep it tidy, etc. This is technology, relatively cheap technology, that can give you that data and understanding who's using it, how often, and then will enable us as the RTO to actually look at that usage and go, righto, we can target more people here or these people more often. So it's at that early stage. We're definitely not handing out any swipe cards, councillor, but it's more around the technology. The opportunity is there for us to take that first step, which could potentially be utilised throughout the district. Of that technology is definitely there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We've got something later on that'll be
I think you have.
handy to have.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting things in there. I mean, there's the car park itself that we need to get a solution for, and then there's Caroline Bay and Freedom Camping and what have you. And I remember talking some 4 years ago to, I won't name the name, but someone involved with the dock at the time and said that is premium camping site. Anywhere across the country, for a camper van, you'd be charging $60, $80 for them to get a view of the ocean. So the fact that we're giving it away when they can go to camping grounds is just ridiculous. Yeah.
Totally concur.
Just on that, to close that loop, we had a catch-up with the new regime at Caroline Bay Association early last week, just around the lead-in to the carnival and the concerts, etc. And we've asked them for just a bullet point usage of those that need access through that period of time, which can help inform that wider discussion as well. So.
Agreed. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, any further questions? We'll close that out. Mover, Councillor Piddington, Councillor Oliver, seconder. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Cool. Where are we? We might just stay with statement of intent. Where were we? Beach Timaru, THL, where is it? Sorry. My eyes, quarterly report. Oh, there, sorry. Yeah, next one. Apologies. 9.4, which is the VT statement of intent. And that's on page 92. You guys, did you want to stay there? We've been through this. It is really, just in case there's any questions, it is receive a note. Is there any further questions in regard to this? Yeah, Councillor Pye, thanks.
I just, really like this new format of the statement of intent, and you've got your operation success indicators here. So will you include them in your quarterly report to us, those indicators and progress against them each quarter?
Yep, there will be a completely revamped and updated reporting template, which I tabled part of the initial part of it at the board meeting this morning. So, yes.
Cool. Look, in one. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm happy to move.
Happy to move? Yep, perfect. I'm happy to second it. And this is just our comment, and I don't think we need to make changes, but I'd just say around the likes of the KPIs, I think they just have to be BT specific, the likes of, as an example, the likes of commitments in place for tenancies for TDHL. I personally don't think that, I know you're going to work in partnership and what have you, but I think they have to be specific to VT as opposed to crossing a line. But I don't think it needs to change anything sitting in this today. So I was the seconder. Any further discussion? Put the motion now. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Perfect. Thanks, Team VT. Appreciate that. Welcome now, Team TDHL, Fraser and Mark. We start with the quarterly reports on 9.5, and that's on page 108.
Your Worship, councillors, thank you for having us here today. As we've noted there, the 1st of February 2024 letter of expectations from Council asked for updated quarterly reporting and performance measurements. In response to this, TDHL has reviewed and refreshed the content and style of the report. I won't go through each of those bullet points here, I'll take those as read. I will run through the report though, seeing as it's a first cut at our new reporting style, and we welcome any feedback so we can continue to improve. Regarding intergenerational investments, the Alpine Chair attended the December meeting and the Prime Port Chair attended the February meeting. The property portfolio, the investment return of 7% is calculated at the end of financial year, but year-to-date revenue is ahead of budget. Regarding new investments and diversifications, we were to develop a statement of investment policy and objectives. This is complete and presented to the Council on the 16th of April. Regarding shareholder returns, we have paid a dividend of $500,000 to date. Workshops have been held on the 6th of December and 16th of April. We are achieving statutory compliance and we have revised our dividend policy as per the 24-25 statement of intent.
Just adding to that, the final $500,000 dividend payment was made last week to bring that up to $1 million.
Regarding relationships and partnerships, the TDHL Chair and reports to Council, which we have done. Regarding Timaru District Council engagement, TDHL continue to engage with Council at a governance and management level to ensure alignment heading into the LTP and identify and foster overlapping opportunities. TDHL thanks Council for considering the draft statement of intent. And in the upcoming quarter, we are looking forward to the 16th of April workshop, which we've since had, providing the final SOI in June and further workshop in August. Alpine Energy shareholder officers have been working on the statement of corporate intent and asset management plan. Shareholders received the first full report from the Alpine Chair and CEO in late March on the price path correction. And in the upcoming quarter, there are shareholder and Alpine board workshops in early April and mid-May to receive the final SCI and an update on the release of the draft DPP4 settings.
And just further on the price path correction, Alpine Management met with the Commerce Commission in June and had a constructive and positive conversation, and the Alpine Board have settled on a engagement plan and desired outcomes with the Commerce Commission, so it's now a matter of negotiation with the Commerce Commission over the next few months to see how that process pans out.
Regarding Prime Port Timaru, a recruitment process is complete for the new locally based director for the Prime Port Board, and in the upcoming quarter the focus will be on the joint Prime Port TDHL submission at the district plan review hearings. The property portfolio, asbestos removal is underway at 101 to 107 Stafford Street. Construction contracts have been issued for the restoration works at 117 Stafford Street, the Union Bank building. And opportunities for the Linden Street and Martin Street sites continue to be actively pursued. Regarding profit and loss, the year-to-date net income is $982,000, which is ahead of year-to-date budget of $802,000, primarily due to higher rental income and lower than budgeted costs. The lower than budgeted other income is due to reduced dividends received from associates and the delayed timing of Showgrounds property settlement. For balance sheet and statement of cash flows, the balance sheet and statement of cash flows reflect the increased equity position from the close of the 23 year, primarily a result of asset revaluations. And I'll take the rest of the report as read and welcome questions. Thank you.
Alrighty, questions, team? Councillor Piddington.
Mark or Fraser, just on the Showgrounds, where's that at the moment? Because it's been, you know, the lump of dirt and all the other things that concern people. Just wonder whether you have an update.
Yeah, the resource consent for the issuing of titles for stage one was granted a few months ago, and stage one titles have now been raised, so that's enabled the developer to restructure their finance, and I understand that the civil works for stage two, where the stockpile is, will start this summer. That's the intention.
Just to clarify, the pile of dirt, is that on the land or is it on the option land?
It's on their land.
But we would also like to see it gone.
I just had a question about on that summary page where you've got your financial performance targets, and you've got the target, and then you've got the forecast and achievement, but is that the actual budget? Which actually then leads me to another question, is in this quarterly report, I would find it very useful if you gave us a forecast, because I'm kind of keen to see where you're going to end up, especially with a couple of moving parts in there that could have a potential major effect on the outcome, and it's no good after the end of the year coming and saying, Houston, we have a problem.
That's a great question, and Fraser can update you on the forecast now.
Yeah, the second column is a forecast, and that was prior to recalculating the forecasts subject to not receiving the Alpine dividend. So the updated forecast for the EBITDA is around 2.7 million for the year, and some of those other measures are slightly under as well.
Possible to include that column in the report going forward with the forecast, so we can compare it to full year budget?
Well, that actually was the forecast at this stage when we put it in, because we didn't know about the Alpine dividend.
Oh, so are you talking about the budget on the profit and loss, or are you just talking about the key metrics of the 6.9% and 6.
Yeah, just the key metrics.
Oh, yeah, quite good to see the column on the next to the profit and loss, but only if everybody else thinks that's of value.
Yeah. Okay, I'll see what I can do.
The rest of the report was great, thanks. I like the new layout, it's great.
Further questions? No, if not, move to the recommendation that we receive and note the report. I'm happy to move. Councillor Oliver, seconder. Any further discussion? Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Alrighty, move now to 9.6, 9.7. So 9.6 is just the modified, just in regard to the change from CCO to CCTO. So we might, if everyone's comfortable, we might just move that, and then we'll move to the next one. So if you read the, if you just quickly read the updated letter on page, I'll just point you to the paragraph. Where are we? Page 115. Second paragraph. For clarity, this SOI for the current financial year has been updated to reflect TDHL's status as a CCTO as opposed to a CCO. And that's the main change in that one. So
and that was previously presented.
Yeah, yeah. So we just need to tidy that up. I'm happy to move that. And then Councillor Burt, seconder. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. And then we'll go to 9.7, which is a statement of intent. Yeah, thanks, mate.
I will take that as read, because that has been previously presented as well. But I'll put a bit more context around the current position. So one of the consequences of the Alpine overcharge issue is Alpine forecasting no dividend to the shareholders, TDHL being one of them, for the foreseeable future. TDHL has an enterprise risk framework. One of the risks previously identified was dividends dropping or stopping from associates. Mitigations included diversifying the portfolio, which we are focused on within our strategic plan, and adjusting our capital structure, which we are well advanced with. Due to the timing of Alpine advising us of the value of the overcharge issue and the impact on dividends to TDHL being after the draft SOI was developed, but before final sign-off for this final SOI, we've been able to stress test this impact against the strategies and mitigations that underpinned the draft SOI. We are comfortable in our long-term forecasts, including the dividends. 3 years ago, I don't know if we could have said the same thing. I think this recent scenario and review process validates the work we've put in over the past couple of years developing good governance processes.
Awesome. Any questions? No? Cool. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Burt, thank you. Councillor Scott, perfect. No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Awesome. Thanks, team. Appreciate that. Thanks for all the work to both TDHL and to VT as well, as far as what goes into those SOIs. So appreciate that. Thank you. Alrighty, I'll take us back now to 9.2. Oh no, actually, just on the theme, we'll continue to 9.11, which is council-controlled organisation company constitutions, and that's on page 156. We have talked about this previously. Is there any, I won't necessarily get anyone up unless there's any specific questions. Wouldn't expect there to be too many. So everyone comfortable? This has been part of a longer process. I'm happy to move that from the chair then. Councillor Scott again, perfect. So, no, we'll have someone else then, yeah, good point. Yep, Councillor Pye, no, good point. No further discussion, put the motion, all those in favour please say aye. Against, carried, great. We'll circle back to 9.2 on page 69, which is actions. No.
The second one on page 70,
yep.
On the Freedom Campus, there was a paper, but it's getting rewritten. Sorry. There was a paper, but it's being rewritten. I don't think it's on here at all. So that is, it says complete, but it's not complete now.
No, that's cool. I think the key one, yeah, on page 70 we're looking at the moment at the bottom. So I think the key one for this is timing. We want something in place by the summer season, and so we are quickly counting down. So I think initial paper, when's the next meeting? Do we know when that one's due? Anyone give a nod to when we're looking to bring that paper? Well, let's just take that offline and see if we can. Yeah, of course.
I did have a question on that, because we talk about that we're unable to ban freedom camping entirely from the district, but my question, sorry, I'm just getting up, but surely we can identify areas and take areas away and change use of them? Can we do that? So it's not like banning it, but surely we can identify areas, take them away or change the use of them, instead of having to do the new bylaws and changing. Yeah, sorry, I just...
No, that's fine. We're working through a whole variety of different options. There's a whole team working on it, and what we want to present to you is the sort of the best options and things like that. So it has taken, unfortunately, a wee bit longer than what we anticipated it would. We had actually hoped to bring it to today's meeting, but when we really started talking through it, we just decided that no, we're better just to pause to get it right rather than presenting something that was, had still some gaps in it. So hopefully it won't take too long. Aiming for potentially, I would say, within the next couple of meetings we should be, maybe not the mid-July one, but either late July, early August, we should be getting closer to being able to present something.
Sorry, Jackie, just stay there.
Sorry, the next couple of meetings is August, September, October. We want...
No, I would say August at the latest, we should be able to present something.
Yeah, because we need to have something in place. I mean, you drive to Queenstown, you can't go over the Red Bridge. There's a no camping zone,
Yeah.
So it can't be that hard.
Yeah, and yeah, totally aware. There's just different aspects of, like, we've got to have our bylaws and all the rest of it. Everything needs to align and things, so there's a bit to work through.
Yeah, I get that, but my point is this started in December. We're now 8 months later and we still haven't got the paper.
There was a paper, I pulled it, okay, because I didn't think the solution was the right one. That one of the issues we've got, as Nigel from Venture Timaru pointed out, there's not good information on exactly what's happening down there, and some of those solutions involve electronic gear that would require some sort of capital income. One of the options that was probably the best option, when you put that gear in, the amount of revenue you collect is just completely eaten away by that gear. So we've got to really think what is the best solution here, and it's not just straightforward.
I think the key, I mean, there's wider complications around the bylaws, and I recognise that there's some challenges in there, but the one key thing for that area was, hey, you've got probably 50, 60 campers there overnight. You know, let's understand what the business case is. Is it a barrier arm? Is it a, you know, how do you control it? Is it the, you know, guys doing the meters popping down at, you know, 7:30 on the, and knocking on the window? Welcome to Timaru. I don't know, I'm just...
Yeah, I guess I don't want to overcomplicate it. I haven't seen barriers in Queenstown keeping vans out. There must be simple ways to encourage people to either pay or move on. We've got a sign down there, maximum of 2 nights, you know. A fortnight later, the same van's parked there. You know, don't overcomplicate it.
No, look, I actually think that for that specific car park, I agree the data around the, you know, around Caroline Bay itself, yes, but that specific car park, you just have to pop down every morning. There's significant numbers in there that will drive a revenue source or have them move somewhere else. Yeah. Yeah, but we do need a good solution, but that's awesome. Thank you. So that was the second action. Look, the first one, and I know this dates back to October, and I know there's reporting coming through, but I'm really keen to, with the budget reallocation, that when budgets are moving, that the chairs, etc., are still notified. That is key to this. I've been notified since we decided this of one ballot budget reallocation. So based on that assumption, I assume there's no others or very little reallocation. So I think we need to keep to that. Otherwise, I think otherwise it's a change to delegation or reporting again. I'm not convinced that the reporting is ideal. Any further questions on that one or comments? We'll move through to traffic management. Key one on...
Can I will ask a question on that. I've seen this sitting here for a while, and I probably should ask it out of here. What exactly are you trying to achieve? Because there's a difference between reallocating a budget and someone's still going over, so we take that offline.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, I can talk to you about that. Mr. Roadcone, Councillor Shannon.
Was that my invitation, was it?
Yeah, no, was that, did you want to speak?
I do. Thank you very much. We'll go to the last sentence of that. Anyway, it is recommended that this request be closed. No. Just pulling up my notes. For a start, it says in there that guidelines, we awaited new guidelines, and my question then would be define guidelines, as in if current temporary traffic management plans are based on guidelines and not law, or are they based on law? How can we just be waiting for guidelines to change before we can change our approach? And if they are just guidelines, change it now. Secondly, some contractors may treat this as an overhead, but definitely not all, no matter what it says here. And we can surely ask for this to be separated as a line item in tenders. in invoicing, the only way we can be comfortable that these expenses are reasonable is if we bring them out of the dark. And with respect, this report to me wants to keep them in the dark, even if it's just from me.
It's not from you. Okay, to answer your first question, so temporary traffic management is a part of keeping workers safe. So it's a part of what we're required to do under the Health and Safety at Work Act, and it's council's duty of care is currently run under COPTM, which is the Code of Temporary Traffic Management, which is the best case. So basically, I suppose if something were to happen out on the roads and there was a fatality of a worker, WorkSafe would come in and have a look and say, we're using the current best practice of the industry, which is currently COPTM. That is changing, so there is a bit of a disconnect between the Code of Practice and the Health and Safety at Work Act. So WorkSafe have released their guidelines on how to be safe on a work site. Yes, and then the Transport Agency have also released their guidelines responding to this. So as an industry, we're in a bit of an interesting space at the moment. The highways have been trialling over the last 6 months this new risk-based approach to temporary traffic management across a couple of the network outcome contract areas, not down here, but mainly up north, and I think maybe Marlborough Roads was involved. Is at a industry presentation last week, no, week before. They are moving at pace to this risk-based approach across state highways. So from October 2024, that will be the system that they run on. We will look to transition to that as the lessons are learned from industry and are put back through. At the moment, the Code of Practice is very descriptive and great for our maybe smaller contractors that aren't so familiar with a risk-based approach. But as we're seeing from the industry, the bigger tier 1 contractors are wanting to shift to this sooner. Also, the government policy statement on transport was released in its final format on Friday, and there's very strong words in there in regards to temporary traffic management as well. And I think as far as existing contracts, it's going to be very hard to unwrap the information that you're looking for, because it's not defined in any one line item, but certainly moving forward, that's something that can be included as a line item, so we have that visibility. So, yeah, that's hopefully. Did I answer your second question? What was your second question? I've forgotten. Sorry, Councillor.
It was an excellent answer, actually. Thank you very much, especially after this text I sent you on the weekend after that announcement that came out from the Minister. Yes, I'm very keen to keep this live while things are still in progress, personally, if I can.
Yeah, and an opportunity I see. So there's within contract and there's outside of contract. So we'll still be doing substantial work outside of contract that we'll be getting a quote for, where it'll be itemised. So I wonder, is it going to be in the too hard basket for someone that sees those quotes to just run a spreadsheet, put value of contract, traffic management into there over a 6-month period to see if we can get a bit of a analysis on that?
Certainly, I think that's something that we'd be able to do in the land transport unit. I'll need to talk to my counterparts in the other units to make sure that that's something that's viable. Obviously, coming into a brand new financial year with brand new budgets and an LTP, it's certainly something that we can look to without increasing too much staff time to,
it shouldn't be overly onerous,
to capture,
I would have
capture that information. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That'd be great. Thank you. So we might just try and add that to the action. Thank you. Righty. Do we cover that next one? Subcontracting, so quite a bit of work going on around that, and I've got to email my draft, which I'll send to elected members just to give you a bit of an update. Yep. Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, so who's working on this? This is you too, Susie, is it? Aren't you lucky? At first glance, savings and efficiencies of a council-wide approach, they make sense to be exploring those. And I just wonder, re some of the facilities, are there some opportunities to reduce overall requirements in the same sort of manner that perhaps small and private businesses do? And what I'm alluding to here are part-time staff, student employment and the likes. Within a museum or a library environment, for example, and it's part of succession planning and future staff as well. I know many business owners will tell you that they have a commercial cleaner, but they also have a student that comes in once a week, does all the rubbish bins before bin day, vacuums this area and the lights to help to reduce their overall cost, at the same time providing employment for youth, succession planning, future staff and all that sort of thing. Does it come under the same sort of umbrella, and is it already happening? Is it part of consideration?
Currently the opportunity sits at the low rate of the living wage. Good idea though. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. No, that's all good. So subcontracting, small trades, I've got an update to flick to you guys in my draft, unless you've got any questions on that. Some good work going on inside council, which is great. Move to quarterly activity reports. Just keen to see anything that we're not brought forward. Underutilisation of assets, comments on that one? Councillor Piddington.
Just wondered when we're going to see part 2 of that and part 1 what's happening. And there's 2 parts to that. Are we advertising the assets? When's that going to happen? And B, it seems some debates in-house, from what I hear, around ones we took off could actually be back on the table. So just the clear process moving forward on that.
Yeah. I'll just note that, and I'll take that offline with NT. Yeah. Cool. Where are we? Property services. Oh, yep. So that's work in progress. I'm not sure what date, but I'll get a date on when that report next step is coming. So I'll take that offline as well. Workshop on water standards, 27th of August for that. Asset management program, that's part of the 17A. I'll just go through, stop me if you've got any questions. Council properties, that's tied up with Councillor Piddington's one earlier. Website updates, investigation of commercial use of bins, we're talking about that this afternoon. Coastal erosion, a report shortly. Coming for Redruth, a report shortly for Petiti. And then the budget breakdown for Sea Bay, that is now closed. Was there any further questions on those? No. So I'll just move that we note the report. Yeah, Councillor Piddington.
Sorry, just on the list of council-owned properties, again, this is March, we're July. Can we put a time frame on some of this stuff? Because there's no good being on this list and every council meeting we roll it over. Give the target.
Like a target. Yeah. No, agreed. Yeah, I'll just, we can discuss this on Wednesday if you like, Nigel. We can put some timelines around it on actions. Where are we? Sorry, just closed off on me. So it's just to receive a note. I'll move. Sorry, can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Parker, thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. That one's done. Now 9.12, Petiti Point Coastal Erosion Update. Welcome, Bill. And that is on page 170. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. So this is just a very brief update on where things are at. Having looked down there a few times, one thing that it's happening is the Pistol Club are in the process of moving their club rooms and their range elsewhere. They're just waiting for certification. After that happens, there is no significant assets in the Petite Point area that should be affected for several years. We've closed the top car park to vehicles, as you can see in some of the attachment photos, and at the moment it probably is very expensive if we wanted to do anything, but there is nothing immediately that needs protected, is the bottom line. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Yeah, and that next study is due next year, is it, by the looks of it? Is it a 5-year study?
Yes, what we were thinking is, from going out, I don't think there is a need for anything for 5 years.
4 or 5 years, okay, no, gotcha. Okay, cool. Questions in regard to that? Yeah, Councillor Pye.
It's not a question for Mr. Steen, it's more a philosophical question. I get that, you know, as a community we spend millions on flood protection from rivers, which I'm quite happy about, and I know that's clearly an ECAN role, but why do we not put the same focus on our coastal environment, and whose role is that actually to do that? Because I feel like, and I get the difference in the value of the assets you're trying to protect, but I feel like we're just going to ignore this and come 30 years and we've got a problem, and the asset, whether it be the dump, the railway line, whatever it is, the port, it's actually going to be a major. Yet we just seem prepared just to sit back and let it happen. Probably doesn't need an answer.
If I can help, there is some talks going on in government departments on how, moving forward, they're going to deal with it, and there will be some flow on after that decision has been made. So we all know where we stand at that basis, and I think they're working through that.
So at the moment, is it actually clear whose responsibility? You know, like rivers, it's clear, it's ECAN, but coastal, is it not clear?
I'll jump up, Mr. Taylor.
Afternoon, councillors. From a climate change response perspective and adaptation, one of the key issues for this last year has been the central government lack of decision making in an area which was well advanced towards a decision under the previous government. The reason for the delay now is that there's an inquiry underway. It's receiving evidence presented to a previous inquiry. The promise from government is it will be given serious consideration, but there's not yet a promise that there'll be legislation resulting. But until we have either that policy, or better still, some legislation which indicates the relative positions of local government and central government, we have considerable uncertainty as to the role we can play. The point that you make, Councillor, is a philosophical point at the moment, but will become an operational question during the 10-year term of this long-term plan period. So it's something which we as a council will need to revisit once we have clarity on the government direction or lack of direction.
Yeah. Councillor Burt.
All the chat in my previous encounters with it is coastal retreat. It's a band-aid situation. There is no way district councils can afford to even step into that area at all. You know, Petite Point might be a pinch point for what's happening at any one time, but it's right across the whole of New Zealand. District councils need to just lobby and sit back. We could not even afford to even start touching that. And under the previous government, the figures they were talking were insurmountable even there. So I can see this government would be going, well, we're just going to have to look at a coastal retreat.
Councillor Burt's point is about whether it's really an organised retreat or a chaotic retreat. And the issue that we will need to address as potential recipient of calls for help from landowners, from property owners and so on, is that the precedent set by the ad hoc decision-making on Hawke's Bay and Gisborne and Auckland, where 50% of the funding had to be found by unsuspecting local authorities who were not expecting to have to pay for bailouts of property which was graded as red zone, uninhabitable. If we were to face that, if we would have a really severe weather event within the next month or two, we would be unprepared. We don't have capital provision, we don't have legal powers. But the reason why we'll need to look at it, Mr. Mayor, is that we have to be ready for such eventualities in our strategy and our plan making.
Councillor Billington.
You'll be pleased you can help me with this one, Bill. I had a gentleman worried about the anchor and the whale pot on Petiti Point. And, you know, I guess it is advancing, so where are we going to put them to be safe?
As it advances, we'll move them further inland, as we've moved some other signs and things like that.
An organised retreat.
Definitely.
Depends, it may be chaotic yet. Yeah, it's interesting around the precedent and who pays. You've got Petiti Point as an example. You could find a general rate solution. No, I'm just throwing for the precedent setting side of it. Then you've got Washtite where you need protection, you know, your target rate industry. Then further up the coast, you've got, you know, rural landowners who can't afford to do it themselves. So which is correct, and they all start to set precedent. So interesting. I think our minds will be turned to this again when we receive the report on Redruth in August. So I don't think this will go off the table. But thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Any further questions for Bill before we close it out? No. Can I have a mover? Councillor Jackson. Awesome. Councillor Scott, thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. That's 9.2. So Grant. Sorry, Grant, you always seem to be at the end of the agenda. Welcome for some reason, so we'll try and move you forward next time. But we've got waste management and minimisation plan on one page, 180. Welcome, Grant, go for it.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in regards to the paper, obviously take it as read, but just a summary of a couple of the major points. As you'll see, there's 3 recommendations and they sit separately. The first one is that we have initially put a draft submission paper out, and it went out to the public, 8 submissions received, and most of those have been incorporated in our revision. And you'll see on the second page there's a summary of the amendments that have been proposed to update the draft WMP. In regards to the actual draft WMP itself, it was due yesterday, but they've been advised that this meeting had been deferred, and that's acceptable, so we're looking obviously to have that adopted. The other 2 submissions relate to firstly the zero waste bins, where we are under the review of our current policy, and as we've advised previously and as in this paper, this initiative has been costing the council considerable money because we have been providing basically a free waste disposal for any event. So we are moving along the lines of advising organisers at the moment that we'd like to work with them in respect of the fact that we are nominating or suggesting they contact the waste contractors that are in the area. We obviously don't nominate anyone in particular, and that we will provide the bins still, but they then have to manage the waste, and that means they often also engage with the educators, and the event becomes more sustainable, and it doesn't all just end up in a landfill. So that's what we're proposing. I've been at a few meetings recently, and we seem to be at odds with most other councils. I think we are the only council I can find that go to this extent, and basically it's coming straight off our bottom line. So I think we can still be responsible and try to encourage waste minimisation, but in a more strategic way. And the event organisers seem to be coming on board. They have to have some stewardship over this, we believe. So that's an area we're looking at. And the final submission was the stickers, potentially. The curbside changes have created a bit of confusion, but as you'll note in the report, the contamination rates haven't lifted, and they have remained the same, but we do appreciate that some people have been perhaps a little bit unaware of the changes. We have recently, in the last 3 weeks now, got brochures available which have been made available at all our service centres, the library and downstairs in the main office. So they're available for people to pick up, and we've had quite an uptake of those. We're not advocating for a full sticker review, and as you'll see, in the first time it occurred, it took over almost 3 or 4 months to complete. It cost an enormous amount of money, and this one would probably cost more because you have to degrease the bins and that as well. But one thing that's not in there that we've got a price now for the stickers, and potentially what we could have available, adding to our recommendation, is that we could also have these stickers available so that if people were wanting to come in and update the stickers on their bins, they could actually collect them from us as opposed to us going out and putting them on, because that requires warrants and everything as well. We can only do it on the road. So we could do that, and that would we could have 2,000 stickers available for a cost of only around about $2,500, and that would be still covered by our waste levy. We have sufficient waste levy left this year that we could do that, and of course next year the waste levy is likely to increase. Just on the waste levy, we it was $50 a tonne. As from today it goes to $60 a tonne, so we're estimating that next year that will mean an increase to about $1.3 million. We have obviously supporting the educators, Sustainable South Canterbury Trust. We have in recent negotiations with them, and they have seen a significant increase in what they're providing, so we're looking to support them in that. And we also do provide a sort of subsidy, because there's some materials come in that cost us money, and they're primarily children's car seats. Degassing's now required for all our whiteware, which wasn't 6 months ago, so we're now having to pay for the cost of that, but that can come from the waste levy, which is great. That's probably about the major things, plus the e-waste we have to, that costs us an amount to have that removed as well. So that's my summary, is what we're looking for at the moment. So, questions?
Awesome, thanks Grant. Just for interest's sake, at some point, could you just flick us around where all the waste levy, I mean, you've sort of categorised a lot of it, but just the numbers and where it is going, just so the elected members sort of know what we get per year and just what it exactly it is funding. Yeah.
Yes, so do you want just the last, because it obviously varies every year, but just do you want the specific amounts that are allocated?
Within CUI that, hey, this amount of money is going to the eco centre, this is going to degassing. I see you've highlighted that, this is going to, just to give a bit of an idea.
Certainly, yep.
Yeah, now questions, Councillor Scott.
I sort of ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole with this again too, because I think I was sort of the one that thought a bin sticker was a good idea. And when I look back at previous reports, we talked about our contamination rates were high when these changes first started, but then this report almost says that they're not. So I suddenly thought, well, why did we end up going down this track?
So I suppose if we go back to so contamination obviously only comes from the green bin and predominantly the yellow bin, but we recycle, I think it's over 70%, and I could look to Justine, who will give me a nod here. Yeah, over 70% of our yellow bin, which I believe is probably the highest, if not one of the highest in the country. So within that, we do have contamination rates that have gone from about 18 to 27%, and they vary month on month. And as I said in the paper, one of the predominant causes was nappies, and of course the changes to the curbside don't impact upon that at all. But they are much higher than what we'd like, and of course, as you'll see in our WMMP, we won't achieve our target at that high figure. But as we've said before, we probably, because we start from such a high recycling rate, we're probably at a bit of a disadvantage. But we'd like to try and achieve as best we can. Yeah, does that answer your question?
I think for me, I remember reading a report saying, we were awesome, and then, it sort of changed and people were confused. And so our contamination rates had increased. But, I think what I read in this report is that actually it's settling down now. People are a little bit more educated, and so
yes,
it's
indeed.
getting
Look,
better.
they have wavered a bit, and some months since the changes, they've actually been less than what they were last year. But I think the last month that it just popped up again, it does vary a little bit.
Yeah,
It's dependent, yeah.
Okay, well, I think the option of people collecting a sticker is awesome, and I very much support that.
Yeah, as you probably gathered, we only thought of that after we'd done the submission.
Yeah, but that's
so
great,
we
yeah.
think that would be quite
Yes.
a good way to go.
So I did have a conversation with Councillor Shannon. I thought it was quite a good investment, and he told me that's ridiculous and how expensive that was. So him and I were complete opposites, where I thought it was quite good.
I just wonder, Grant, with stickers, around schools as well, kids like stickers, putting them on things, and that's an education process. Because I get you've got to spend it, but you're not going to get any change unless we do something different.
Look, that's a good point, and perhaps if we upped our number of stickers and based on what the waste levy is, we could allocate them out to the schools and maybe encourage people to take them home. And the other option is that there's only I think 2 items on the stickers that inside at the moment that are wrong, and a black felt pen potentially covers. But look, I like that as well, so I think we could certainly do that.
And just one other idea is that use it within the rates bill.
Sorry, yes, that's all. We're proposing to do that, definitely. That's part of our marketing, bit of radio, obviously media, using the e-boards downtown. So we're proposing that, yep.
Councillor Shannon.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was an interesting conversation with Stacey, actually. And I would even suggest that making stickers available for people to collect is also not a good idea, because they are your conscientious people that are doing it properly anyway. I'd be more interested in something targeted, because I was surprised reading this that, yes, I agreed, we actually look pretty good. And it's fairly specific what most of these opportunities are. And if, for example, one of the keys is nappies, it should be reasonably easy to target some direction for those people.
Yes. So that's probably a side matter, in that there is an initiative that is underway that will be sent to councillors soon. The information is going to councillors that have been approved previously, which is called a white bin lid policy.
Right.
But it is a separate matter, and that will target the people that are identified as causing contamination in the bins.
Yeah, or pink stickers. Mrs. Pye is pretty good at those.
You're right. And a lot of the people that are totally conscientious and want to do it right, they're the ones that want the stickers. So they're available for them. So hopefully we'll cover both avenues.
Yeah, my whole point being that when we are actually trying to be quite prudent, I'm not keen on spending a lot of money on vast campaigns, if you like, that don't target a result.
No, I understand.
I can probably ask you this offline, but the white lid, so you put nappies in your green bin, you get a white lid, and then the white lid isn't collected. How do you get rid of your white lid?
There's a process. This would be run by EnviroNZ, and they have identified a process, and it's not just a one-off sort of scenario. There are warning scenarios. We have the process now, and it's being circulated for feedback. It's sort of you can get rid of your white lid by signing a letter and agreeing that you won't do it again, and then absolutely back on stage. And of course, those bins are subject to closer, because there are bin auditors out there that they're subject to an audit if that's the case. But we want everyone to have nice clean bins so we can reach our contamination levels or reduce them to the level.
Would you like a brown lid for Jordine? Councillor Oliver, is that what you're suggesting? Go for it.
Hey, just a quick question for my own, to find out myself, because I always get asked, what happens with the glass? Where does it go? What's it getting made into when it gets recycled? Because obviously we keep it separate.
Sorry, which one's
What
that?
happens with the glass?
Oh, with glass.
And where does it go to, and what does it get made into? And my other question is, do we still take coloured plastic bottles like Sprite bottles and lemon and pyro bottles? Because a couple of weeks ago on the news, it said that's ceasing. We're just going to clear bottles. Is that happening here, or where's that at?
I'm not aware that that's happening at this stage, but that's not to say that it may not be a change. As far as the glass gets collected, taken to Christchurch and is produced into all sorts of different matters, I think predominantly goes back into glass again, if I just turn around. Is that? Yes, so it certainly, at one stage I believe it was being used in a bit of roading, but I think now the market is available again. But it's like a lot of these things, the markets come and go, it's very economically driven, obviously. And perhaps on that note, if I just mention the soft plastics as well, that was something that came through in the submissions. There is a stewardship scheme being started up again, which is led by government and by the Packaging Forum, as they're called. So that is something that we are hoping to will gain some momentum, because there's certainly a desire amongst many of the community to, reduce the amount of soft plastics available. And with the supermarkets having withdrawn plastic bags, that certainly helped.
The green bottles and brown bottles and the plastic bottles? So
Yes.
they're all still mixed in?
Yes, at this time, yes.
Okay, cool.
Grant, I actually had a question about the soft plastics. I've got another one as well, but I read in there, like they said, they're not looking to extend their collection, and they're looking. But I went on to the Future Post website, and they are looking proactively for logistical solutions. And I kind of wonder, are we being proactive enough? Because I feel like maybe we should be contacting Future Post direct and seeing if there's a solution there. And I said flippantly last time, maybe we should backload with all the rubbish that gets put into, but I was actually serious about that.
We have been in contact with them twice. We have, and we'd done that even before the previous. It was about February. So they told us that we weren't on the list yet. That they sort of were doing a one by one, but in recent times, and that's just what I was saying before about the last month, there's been advice that this is becoming a product stewardship scheme, and so effectively it's going to be run via supermarkets, because they predominantly were the main cause of packaging, and they still are, because you've got internal packaging. So we could try and be proactive, but it would probably significantly cost us money, and we believe at this time that if this gains momentum, we're probably better off going for the ride, because it's not going to cost us the money. If it's run as a product stewardship scheme, then that'll be all funded. So we personally believe at this time, we're certainly very, very aware of it, and we do get a number of inquiries. They know that we're interested if they are going to extend. So there's two different players in here. There's an individual company at the moment, but also the general one.
My question was actually about the event bins. And so I agree with that in principle about charging for that, but I just wanted to make sure there's not any unintended consequences. And so we're funding some of those events through VT. And so my question is, have we actually consulted with any of the event organisers? And what kind of warning will they get? Or are they just going to find out next time they organise their event and, oh, hello, now we've got this extra cost we didn't know about?
Sorry. With the event organisers, that they are all we're discussing one-on-one early on. When they make a booking for any of our facilities as such, there is a question, or there was a question that said, do you want zero waste bins? And if they put yes there, they were being contacted and advised that what our parameters are now, that we're proposing, we will provide you with the bins, and I think we've got about 80 bins as such. However, as far as the disposal of the waste afterwards goes, that is yours. Because what used to happen, although they might have had 2 different or even 3 different coloured bins, they all got contaminated and all ended up going into the red bin, into the landfill. And TDC was paying for that, because we have to pay for every tonne or even percentage of that goes over into the landfill. So that they've been made aware of it. As far as we're concerned, and as I said, many of them were quite surprised that we were doing it in the first place, and they saw it obviously an advantage to them. It certainly reduced event costs, but when you discuss it with some of the larger event organisers that have presence elsewhere, that they're aware that that's something they actually do elsewhere, it's not something that council will arrange for them. So although it may have been a change for several of them, and there's a couple of larger ones, for example, the Rock and Hop and that, we have had discussions with them, and we've grandparented it for this year for a number of the larger ones, but have made them aware that next year that's the position. So they are aware of what's going on, and they, as I said, most of them totally understood where we were coming from.
That's right. I thought for a start you were saying they'd only become aware when they went to book it, and I thought they'd need to know about it before they start planning an event. But if you've been in contact and they're aware, that's okay.
Alrighty, good discussion. Let's go back to recommendation. 1, waste management minimisation plan. 2, we provide bins, but disposal is responsibility of the event organisers, etc. And 3, the refresher campaign. So can I move for that? Councillor Shannon, Councillor Burt. Any further discussion? No, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Awesome. Thanks, Grant. Appreciate that. And thanks, Justine. You work in that space. That brings us to the end of those. I've got everything, I think, Rachel. Yeah, cool. So we'll now go to urgent business. Public forum. Stephen, yeah, all good, Grant. Thank you. Stephen at the public forum, that was a submission he didn't tick the right box as far as presenting to the public, so we said would still receive that, so that's great. Move now to exclusion of the public, and we can take